America has lost a great patriot. The Congress has lost one of its giants, one of the most knowledgeable members on national defense ever to serve here, whose service spanned 4 decades and 8 presidents and members from both chambers and on both sides of the aisle. Our hearts go out to Joyce and the family. We in this body have lost a person that makes the very essence and fabric of being here so rich and rewarding. It was evident in listening to our colleagues, listening to Rodney and Bill and Jack Kingston talk about Mr. Murtha. His death is a reminder to us all that our time here and all that we hope to accomplish is fleeting. And as he would say, make the most of it while you're here. Become expert in a field. And most of all, stand up for what you believe. Jack reminded me in so many ways of my grandfather, with that shock white hair and piercing blue eyes and his way of questioning, but also his incredible Irish wit. He loved Congress. He was the epitome of what so often is talked about in terms of bipartisan cooperation, is so often demonstrated between he and Bill Young or Dave Hobson. When he gave his word, he kept it. He was a member's member, ever cognizant of what he could do to help you. And while he was a tough questioner and firm in his convictions, he had an incredible heart and a deep love of history. He loved to talk about Tip O'Neill in the good old days here. I was fortunate to travel overseas with Mr. Murtha 4 times. Sometimes I thought I drew the short straw on the Pennsylvania corner, because Jack, when he took a trip, it was all work. Up at 6, he was in bed by 7. There were no PowerPoints, and he looked people dead in the eye. And he always made sure that he spoke to the enlisted men, because he cared most about them. A decorated hero, 2 Purple Hearts and a Brown Star in Vietnam. The first member from that conflict and veteran elected to the United States Congress. Personally, a young man from East Hartford in my hometown was wounded in Fallujah. He was in bad shape. He was sent back here, and his brother, who was fighting alongside of him, a fellow Marine, was back there. Jack Murtha got on the phone and made sure that those brothers were united at Bethesda, along with their parents. I remember him counseling a father and his teenage son who were at the Ramstein Hospital in Germany. They had just lost a son. I don't know where Jack got the strength or that reservoir of courage to comfort and console the father and son, but he did, in almost Father O'Malley quality. He cared so deeply about the troops that served this great nation. And as Bill Young pointed out, he and Bill made more trips out to Bethesda and Walter Reed with no publicity. They did it out of duty and honor and respect for those who serve. He wrote a book And on these flights I was privileged to, as he would go through it with me, his favorite book of all time was War and Peace. He cared as deeply about peace as he did about making sure that we protected our troops when they're in the field and took care of them when they came home. He will ever stand out in the minds of America for standing up and speaking out against the war in Iraq, an issue that he struggled deeply with. But as so many great Americans on this floor and in this chamber and around this nation, he found that profile and courage to stand up and speak out. Democrats, I dare say, would not be in the majority if it were not for Jack Murtha leading the way and speaking out, because he is a soldier, and he was respected on both sides of the aisle, as you've heard this evening. But as one commentator said, when Jack Murtha, he speaks for America. And he did. How proud he was to receive the John Fitzgerald Kennedy Profiles in Courage Award. But that his commitment, his life, wasn't only about speaking out. It was about the day-to-day work and belief that he had in the men and women who serve, in the people that he was sworn to serve from his district, and about the men and women who work here. He loved this institution.